When you think of the X-Men, certain names immediately come to mind. Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey, Storm, maybe even Magneto. But there's one character who stands apart from the rest, a woman who's been a villain, a hero, a teacher, and a queen. Emma Frost, one of the most fascinating and layered characters in the Marvel Comics. Known as the White Queen, Emma is one of the most powerful telepaths in the Marvel Universe, rivaling both Professor X and Jean Grey. She's stylish, cunning, and unapologetically ruthless. But beyond the icy exterior, Emma's story is about survival, transformation, and the struggle between who she was and who she wants to be. She's gone from being one of the X-Men's most dangerous enemies to one of their most loyal allies. That duality is what makes her so compelling. We are the Hive Mind, and today we're going to do a deep dive into her origin story, break down her powers and abilities, and highlight some of the most memorable comic book moments in her history. Now, Emma Frost was created by Chris Claremont and John Byron, making her first appearance in Uncanny X-Men in the 1980s, a part of the legendary Dark Phoenix saga. But her backstory was fully fleshed out years later in the 18-issue series Emma Frost by Carl Bollers. In this series, Emma Grace Frost grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, the daughter of wealthy but emotionally abusive parents. Her father, Winston Frost, was cold and controlling, and her mother, Hazel, retreated into medication. And her siblings, Christian, Cordelia, and Adrian, were each damaged in their own way by this toxic household. As a teenager, Emma's powers manifested. She began hearing voices, her classmates' thoughts bleeding into her mind. At first, she thought she was going insane, but she soon realized the truth. She was a mutant telepath. And as time went on, she learned how to control her mutant powers, and in a defining moment, she used those powers to stand up to her father, the first time she refused to be controlled by anyone. Unlike many mutants who found guidance with Charles Xavier, Emma pursued her own path, driven by ambition, power, and survival. That ambition led her to the Hellfire Club, a secret society of wealthy and powerful modeled after 18th century elite clubs where mutants and humans alike schemed to shape world events from the shadows. The Hellfire Club operated with a strict hierarchy based on chess pieces, and Emma quickly rose through the ranks to claim the mantle of White Queen. Alongside figures like Sebastian Shaw, the Black King, she used her wealth, her intellect, and her telepathy to influence politics and corporate empires while furthering mutant dominance. For Emma, the Hellfire Club was more than just a place of power. It was where she learned to survive in a world that hated mutants, and where she sharpened her ability to play the long game. And her telepathic mutant powers would be crucial to her playing the long game. Emma Frost's powers make her one of the most dangerous and versatile mutants in the Marvel Universe. Her telepathy, introduced in the 1980s Uncanny X-Men, places her in the top tier of Marvel telepaths, right alongside Xavier and Jean Grey. He can read and control thoughts, implant illusions, erase or rewrite memories, and launch devastating psychic attacks. But in the new X-Men, which came out in 2001 by Grant Morrison, he introduced Emma's secondary mutation, her diamond form. In this state, her body can transform into an organic diamond, granting her superhuman strength and near total invulnerability. She can survive explosions, sentinel attacks, and even being shattered into pieces. But the trade-off is steep. When she's in her diamond form, she loses access to her telepathy. With these powers that she has, Emma is not only one of the greatest minds in the Marvel Universe, she is also one of the heaviest hitters in the Marvel Universe as well. And now that we've covered what she can do with her powers and abilities, let's see how she used those powers across some of the most iconic moments in the Marvel Comics. Emma's debut was huge. She was introduced as the White Queen of the Hellfire Club, and she immediately clashed with the X-Men while trying to capture a young Kitty Pryde. She showcased her raw telepathic talent by shutting down Storm's power and even holding her own against Jean Grey in psychic combat. No small feat when Jean Grey was on the verge of becoming the Phoenix. The Hellfire Club's scheme in this saga was bold. They sought to manipulate and corrupt Jean Grey, bending the Phoenix Force to their will. Emma, alongside Sebastian Shaw and others, nearly succeeded. For a moment, Jean Grey was transformed into the Black Queen, enthralled by their decadent world of power and influence. Though Jean eventually broke free and Emma was left in a coma, her debut cemented her as a villain to watch. She wasn't just a one-off adversary, she was a master manipulator who would keep coming back, and come back she did, this time in a very different role. This was Emma's turning point. Partnering with Sean Cassidy, better known as Banshee, she opened a new school for mutants at the Massachusetts Academy. Here she trained a whole new generation: Jubilee, Chamber, Husk, Sync, M, and Skin. Her methods were harsh and often controversial. Where Banshee nurtured, Emma demanded. She pushed her students to confront the harsh realities of the world that hated and feared them. But beneath that cold exterior, Emma was genuinely scared. She wanted to prepare her students, not just to fight, but to also survive. For many fans, Generation X marked the moment Emma shifted from villain to anti-hero and showed the first glimpse of her as a protector of mutant kind. Now we get to the era that truly made Emma Frost an icon. Grant Morrison's run didn't just evaluate Emma, it made her central to the X-Men mythos. Starting in the new X-Men issue 131, Emma offered Scott the comfort and intimacy he wasn't finding with Jean Grey. Their secret tryst on the psychic plane exploded into drama when Jean discovered them in the new X-Men issue 139. The confrontation between Jean and Emma remains as one of the most infamous moments in X-Men history. And yet Emma wasn't just about scandal, she lived through one of the most darkest events in the mutant history, the Genosa Massacre in the new X-Men issue 115, when 16 million mutants were slaughtered by Sentinels. Emma survived only because of her diamond form, but emerged carrying the corpses of children she couldn't save. That single image transformed her from cold white queen into someone driven by grief and purpose. Later, Emma was literally shattered, blown apart in her diamond form by her own student Esme in the new X-Men issue 139. She was only resurrected thanks to Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force. At the end of Grant Morrison's run, with the death of Jean Grey in the new X-Men issue 150, Emma had become Cyclops' partner and the co-leader of the X-Men. Her redemption was complete. From there, Emma's role only grew larger, especially during Hickman's era. Fast forward to 2019, and Jonathan Hickman's House of X and Powers of X redefined mutant kind, and Emma Frost was at the center of it all. With the mutants founding the nation of Krakoa, Xavier and Magneto needed someone who could play the political and economic game at the highest level. Emma stepped into that role flawlessly. In House of X issue 3 and issue 6, Emma accepts Xavier's offer to join Krakoa's Quiet Council, but on her own terms. Emma's cunning and business acumen turned Krakoa into a superpower. In Jonathan Hickman's vision, Emma evolves from a survivor and schemer into a true stateswoman, proving that her ambition, when aligned with mutant kind, can change the world. Moving on to 2023, and one of Emma's most shocking recent storylines comes in X-Men number 26 by Gary Dugan. In this issue, she is married to none other than the genius billionaire playboy philanthropist Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. Now, this wasn't some whirlwind romance out of nowhere. It was a calculated move, a strategic alliance during one of the most dangerous periods for mutant kind. At this time, the mutant nation of Krakoa was under attack from Orcus, an anti-mutant organization pulling strings on a global scale. Tony, on the other hand, was facing his own corporate enemies. Stark Industries had been seized and he was fighting to reclaim his legacy. Their marriage was an essential union for survival and strategy. For Emma, tying herself to Tony gave her access to resources, technology, and the protection of being linked to an Avenger. But as with many things in Emma's life, this union wasn't built to last. By Invincible Iron Man issue 12, the two were divorced. The split was pragmatic. Emma never clings to alliances once they stop serving their purpose, and Tony, equally as stubborn, wasn't about to be anyone's pawn. But still, this storyline is memorable because it shows Emma in a new light, using not just her power or politics, but even her marriage itself as a weapon. It also highlights one of her most defining traits. Emma Frost will always do whatever it takes to protect mutant kind, even if it means walking down the aisle with Mr. Tony Stark. In the end, Emma Frost is one of Marvel's most layered and underrated characters. She began as a villain manipulating mutants through the Hellfire Club, but over time she transformed into a teacher, a leader, and even a queen. Her powers make her formidable, but it's her intelligence and ambition and resilience that truly defined her. From the opulent halls of the Hellfire Club to the political throne of Krakoa, Emma Frost proves that sometimes the most dangerous power of all isn't just strength or telepathy, it's vision. With all that being said, we appreciate you all for watching the video and hope you enjoyed learning about the history of Emma Frost. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and again, thank you all for watching.